So I just wanted to go over some ideas of what to do from our knees. So a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies will have students train from their knees. And it's sort of an artificial construct to start on your knees. You're never going to be in a fight on your knees. And even in a sport jiu-jitsu match, you're not going to be fighting from your knees. So in general, I don't teach techniques when five guys are facing each other from your knees. It's just a silly position. This would never really happen. But because takedowns are where most injuries occur, getting taken down accounts for probably 80% of the serious injuries. A lot of academies will have people start like this just to avoid injury. And if the person's there just as a hobby and just wants to train train jiu-jitsu a little bit, we can start here and it'll be safer. So this is a common starting place. So we want to have some ideas what to do from this place. I see too many white belts here and they just scrap and fight and they're not really learning anything and they're wasting time when they could be training. So I finally came up with two simple techniques that complement each other that you could do from this position that are sort of takedowns. Well, the reason why I like these two techniques is they teach you some other things. They teach you a little bit about passing, they teach you a little bit about sweeping, and they teach you a couple fundamental grappling concepts. So here's how we're going to start. We're both on our knees. I'm going to step up with my left foot right between my training partner's knees here like this. And I'm going to get a sort of a collar tie here. So when I say a collar tie, my forearm's right on his chest, my hands controlling the back of his neck and his head a little bit. So from here, I'm just going to drive him over backwards. I'm going to do it a little bit of an angle here. This hand, I might start holding his arm, then I might block his knee. I'm going to drive him over. Now this is going to be like a knee through pass or a knee cutter pass. This is going to come right down to this space here. Now from this position, I got to start to probably try to get an underhook, and I end up in a good side control. So you can see it's a little bit like a pass, and I can get right into it. So teaching me a little bit about a knee cut through pass, teaching me a little bit about getting that far side underhook. That's an important concept for beginners. In general, if we want to control our opponent, we want to have that far side underhook. Now, the way my opponent would defend this would be they'd probably lean into me when they feel that pressure and put their body in an angle. Their head and shoulders would come forward a little bit, sort of buttress against the force. So when they do that, all I'm going to do is slide underneath them a little bit, and I'm going to sweep them in this direction with the butterfly guard sweep. So I step up, I give that pressure, they resist. My shin, knee, and hip, everything's going to slide underneath. I'm going to control his arm so he can't post out, and I'm going to sweep in this direction. So I come here, I sweep, and then I look to get on top and get side control. So you can see this is teaching me how to do a butterfly sweep. It's teaching me about the fulcrum position. I want to slide underneath him. If he resists and I just sit back and try to do it, I might get it done, but it's probably not as good. It's probably going to be a little bit harder to do. But if I slide myself underneath him, this is going to be perfect. I'm now in the fulcrum. He's going to fall over me. It gives me good momentum. So I'm learning about that fulcrum position, okay? Now, the one thing I got to remember to do here is when I'm going forward, my knee's going to be on this side of him. But if he resists, then my knee's going to be on the other side. So I get a nice butterfly hook. So my knee's here, my foot's here, and I can get that sweep. So the great thing about this is I don't have to think about anything. We just start. I step up and I try to make something happen. Either push him over, or we start, he resists, and I go right into my sweep. And I can move right into my grappling and make something happen. It's also teaching us two other key concepts for grappling. One is just a simple push-pull. When I push into my opponent, they tend to push back, then I can get out of the way and pull them and make something happen. So that's a really fundamental concept that this teaches us. The other concept is I always want to have complementary techniques. I really am probably never going to do one attack, just one thing to my opponent. But if I have two techniques in mind where I try one and my opponent sort of blocks it and overcompensates to defend it, I want to have another technique that's now going to become easier. So when he drives into me to pushing him over, I end up sweeping him, okay? So that idea of always having complementary techniques that are using, whether they're sweeps or submissions, is a key one. That's pretty much always what you want to do in jiu-jitsu. One last thing for safety. When I drive my opponent over, I'm not going to drive him straight backwards because everyone has different ankle and foot mobility and knee mobility. So if the person doesn't have a lot of mobility, if I drive them straight backwards, I might hurt their ankles, I might hurt their knees. So he's my training partner, so I'll go a little bit of an angle here like this, so he just rolls over onto his hip and he's not going to get hurt. So that's it. So if you're wondering, if you're a white belt and you're wondering what you should do from your knees, you'll probably start in a position, closed guard or side control anyways. But if you do start from your knees, you can try this technique and you're going to learn a lot about jiu-jitsu and you're going to get right into the training. So give this a try.